So I'm going to continue on number 10. And here, notice it says, if 2 over 3 times 6x minus 18 plus 3 over 4 times 8x plus 32 equals negative 18, what is x minus 7? So one thing I could do is I could take all of this and put it in InSolve to get what x equals. Since I don't have a calculator, I'm going to just have to figure that out on my own. So I'm going to distribute 2 over 3 times 6x. I'm going to end up getting, let's see, 4x. And 2 over 3 times negative 18, I'll get negative 12. 3 over 4 times 8x, I'll get 6x. 3 over 4 times 32, I'll get 24 equals negative 18. So continue this by combining your like terms. I have like terms with these whole numbers, and I have like terms with the x's. So I'm going to do 4x plus 6x to get 10x, and negative 12 plus 24 to get positive 12 equals negative 18. Subtract 12 from both sides. So I get 10x equals negative 30. I'm just going to rewrite that up here. And then divide by 10 to get x equals negative 3. Now the question isn't what is x equal? The question is what is x minus 7? So I'm going to do negative 3 minus 7 to get negative 10. Question 11 says, what is the solution set for negative 10 times the absolute value of x plus 3 plus 4 equals 64? So absolute value typically has two answers, unless for some reason you end up getting a negative number, and that will be no solution. So I'm going to start off by trying to isolate the absolute value on one side of the equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. I'll have negative 10 times the absolute value of x plus 3 equals 60. Divide both sides by negative 10. So the absolute value of x plus 3 equals negative 6. And at this point, I can go ahead and stop, because you cannot have an absolute value set equal to a negative number. Because I have that negative there, then there is no solution. Number 12 says, describe the transformation of the graph from the parent function. Then it says, write the equation of the graph. So your parent function for absolute value is y equals the absolute value of x. So if you were to type this in your calculator, you'd get a graph that looks like this. So from this orange graph that I just drew, how do I get to the red one that's on the paper? In order to do that, I would look at this vertex and then look at this vertex. I have shifted to the right one. I have gone down one. And I have reflected over the x-axis. When all of that happens, you have to realize what these represent. So moving to the right would mean that h equals positive 1. Moving down 1 would mean k is negative 1. And a reflection over the x-axis would mean that a is negative 1. So to write my equation, I'd have y equals a times absolute value of x minus h plus k. And I'm going to just replace those letters with the appropriate number. So negative absolute value of x minus 1 minus 1. For number 13, I could do the same steps that I told you about earlier when practicing a regression. And when I do this, then I would get my A, B, and C values. No, thank you, baby. I'm doing a video, okay? All right. So if I get my regression values, I would have A equals 0.0035, B equals negative 0.945, and C equals 78.312. And the steps that you do are located on the video at number 5. So to write this equation, I would have y equals 0.0035 x squared minus 0.945 x plus 78.312. Number 14, I'm going to solve this inequality. It's absolute value. So let's go ahead and work on it. So always isolate the absolute value before you begin. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. So I have the absolute value of 3 minus 2x is greater than 31. So I need to do 2 separate answers to try to do this. So 3 minus 2x is greater than 31, or 3 minus 2x is less than negative 31. So basically take a positive case and a negative case, but on your negative case, of course, switch your sign. So positive case, and on my negative case, I switch that sign to less than instead of greater than. So just work these out. So subtract 3. Negative 2x is greater than 28. Divide by negative 2. And whenever you divide by a negative on inequality, you always flip the sign. So I'm going to switch it back to less than negative 14. Over here, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So negative 2x is less than negative 34. Divide by negative 2. And of course, if I divide by negative, I just told you switch that sign. So this is going to be 17. So x is less than negative 14, or x is greater than 17. Number 15, solve this. Again, absolute value here. Absolute value of 4x plus 8 divided by 2 equals 16. You always have to get your absolute value alone before you can start. So I need to multiply both sides by 2 to start. So the absolute value of 4x plus 8 equals 32. Then take my positive case and your negative case. 4x plus 8 equals 32. 4x plus 8 equals negative 32. And solve. Subtract 8. Divide by 4. X is 6. On the other case, subtract 8. So I get 4x equals negative 40 by 4 to get x equals negative 10. Number 16, list the characteristics of the following parent functions. So the parent functions are the originals. So the quadratic parent function is y equals x squared, and absolute value parent function is y equals absolute value of x. So imagine what these graphs look like. The absolute value and the quadratic graph actually look pretty similar, except that one is a V and the other is a parabola. So the quadratic is a parabola. The axis of symmetry is always x equals the x value of the vertex. And just think of that vertex here. It's at 0, 0. So x equals 0. The domain is always negative infinity to positive infinity. The range starts at that y value of the vertex, which is again 0. And my y-intercept is at 0, 0. My x-intercept is also at 0, 0. Absolute value, axis of symmetry, straight through the middle, which is also at x equals 0. Domain is also negative infinity to positive infinity. Range is also 0 to 8. And my intercept is also 0, 0. One thing I need to be careful about, there's going to be a bracket on the 0 because it is included in our graph. Number 17, solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. Okay, I'm going to need a little bit of space here. So, in order to do this one, I'm going to need to write down the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So using that formula, I like to find the discriminant first, which is b squared minus 4ac. Let's notice that a is 1, b is negative 4, and c is negative 11. So using the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, let's plug that in. Negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 11. By doing the discriminant, you're going to get 60. So I know that this is positive, so I'm going to have two real solutions, but they're going to be irrational because 60 is not a perfect square. So let's go ahead and figure that out. Negative b. B is negative 4, so negative b is positive 4, plus or minus the square root of 60 all over 2 times a, which is just 2 times 1 is 2. All right, the square root of 60, I can definitely simplify that, so let's go ahead and do that. The square root of 60 is broken down to 4 times 15. And I know the square root of 4 is 2, so this is 2 square root of 15. So 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 15. And all of that is over 2. And remember, we can simplify this if all 3 of the terms on the outside of the radical can be reduced. So I can reduce here, here, and here. So my final answer will be 2 plus or minus the square root of 15. That's for number 17. For number 18, Jesse, Maria, and Charles went to the local craft store to purchase supplies for making decorations for the upcoming dance event. Jesse purchased 3 sheets of craft paper, 4 boxes of markers, and 5 glue sticks. Notice that P, M, and G represent craft paper, boxes of markers, and glue sticks. So let's go ahead and start writing this system out. So Jesse purchased 3 sheets of craft paper. So 3P. He also purchased 4 boxes of markers. So 4M. And 5 glue sticks. And that totaled to be $24.40. Maria spent $30.40, so I know it's going to equal $30.40. And she bought 6 sheets of craft paper, so 6P, 5 boxes of markers, so 5M, and 2 glue sticks, so I know 2G. Charles purchased a total of $13.40. He bought 3 sheets of craft paper, so 3P, 2 boxes of markers, and 1 glue stick. Now that I have this set up, it says determine the unit cost of each item.